I really fell in love with the value transfer of animals. And that was through work at Alabama Institute for Deaf and Blind, where my husband and I both worked for a number of years. And we had the opportunity to watch dogs and horses and other animals being used for therapy purposes. And that's the idea behind the giving program, is give back to those programs so that they can continue. Well, I was just an employee. I wasn't any part of these, but I noticed how the students, either blind students, deaf students, multi-handicapped students, were using animals in ways that brought them joy, gave them confidence, and I just couldn't overlook that relationship between the child and the animal. And I started writing stories about it based on what I was actually seeing in front of me. One of the ones that I think is not as well known, most of us understand dog therapy because we seeing eye dogs for the blind, and we have other applications where we notice dogs are used. Warrior canine companions, for example, would help people with PTSD and those kinds of things. But where I worked here in Alabama, they had a hippotherapy program, and that's using horses for treatment strategies. And horses can be used for physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. And so, for example, a person in a wheelchair who has no movement gets to get on a horse, and the horse's gait is very much like human gait, walking. So their muscles are exercised. We see shy children who are speech impaired who won't even talk to their parents or their teachers talk to the horse. They talk his ears off practically. And the growth that that individual child or adult, because they serve adults as well, would have around animals was a capture of transfer value from the animal to the human instead of the other way around. And I wanted to capture those kinds of stories. I support a lot of no-kill shelters, pet sanctuaries. I sponsor spay-neuter programs here in Alabama. We have seeing eye dogs for the blind, for example. Dogs are used in many therapy kinds of programs. Another interesting one in Alabama, in Birmingham, is called Hand and Paw. And they supply children who need, if they're in stressful situations, like when they have to go to court to testify, or they have to go to the doctor or the hospital, that organization will supply them with a dog to go with them so that they can reduce their stress.
Wow.
And they also give dogs to libraries and schools so kids can read to the dog for kids who don't like to read out loud. And they learn how to be comfortable reading out loud.